Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for hopping on this week for Making Multifamily Money. It's a more intimate group this week. So maybe let's just go around and introduce ourselves, our real estate experience, and I guess what are you trying to learn? I guess you want to start with Stacy since she was here first.
Oh, hi. I'm Stacy. I live in California, Bay Area. As far as real estate experience, we got our first rental back like a few years, and then we kind of took a break since I just had a baby. So now I'm just kind of getting back on the groove and just learning the different options. Because I know there's a lot of different ways to invest and whatnot. So just trying to learn what's out there, and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. I guess Arthur, you're second.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hey, good evening. My name is Arthur. I started investing a few years ago in residential, and now I do multifamily and industrial. I contract for a flex space. Have about 9 million asset under management. My markets are Albuquerque, New Mexico, Charlotte, Kansas City, and Phoenix. I'm currently in Phoenix right now, but I'm from Cali. I was a software engineer for like 10 years. I just decided to do real estate full time.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. I also have a YouTube channel, Facebook group, just a couple of things, small time. Just heard a lot about you, Stephen. Heard about you from the Subtle Asian Real Estate Group, and heard that you do off market outreach. So happy to share your experience, share my experiences, and love to hear your experience as well.
Cool. Awesome. So definitely more experience there. Thanks for hopping on. I guess Charmaine.
Hi there, my name is Charmaine. Stephen, you've known me.
Yeah.
I've been asking questions, and my husband is also listening in. So, just a quick background about myself. I'm an IT professional, so I'm an analyst in a healthcare environment. I've been doing it for a long time, for I would say over 10 years now. And so I'll have my husband introduce himself.
Hi, Stephen. My name is Jay Ryan. I'm pretty sure you know the whole what we had invested into because of Charmaine, but I'm currently a real estate agent out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Started our investing journey, I want to say in 2020. We bought our first single family resident, and we just did it. I don't want to say just because, but we didn't really know too much about investing until we really, honed in and took it seriously earlier this year. And, we started out with Bigger Pockets. We joined a mentorship there. And, they just talk about like a general broad, about investing. It was just like everything about investing, but we really wanted to focus on multifamily. And then we found you on the Subtle Asian Real Estate page on Facebook. And like, oh, this guy's what we're looking for. So, we want to focus on multifamily, and that's why we're here.
Awesome. Cool. They're being humble, but they just closed on a 35 unit apartment complex. So I'll brag for them. I'll brag for them. And last, I guess, is it Han? My Han?
Yeah, hey, hi everyone. I'm Han. I guess on my background here, so I am actually a commercial lender for a long time, and but I also invested in just as a limited partners in some of the properties out in Denver and in San Francisco. But I didn't really know exactly what was going on. I just kind of throw money in there because I just kind of went along with my friend. But it turned out to be really good. But during the pandemic, I didn't want to work for somebody for a long time. And I kind of wanted to start building up my own asset. And so I kind of quit my job and going into real estate full time since last year, actually.
Oh, wow.
But there were some, so I partnered up with a couple people to do some syndication.
Mm-hmm.
So we did, when I first started, I kind of, like I said, I had some experience as far as like underwriting deals and maybe structuring deals, just because that's my background before. So I was able to kind of partner up with some others that can utilize some of my skill, but I could utilize some of theirs to be
Mm-hmm.
able to start investing into it. So we acquire like the first multifamily that I did was a 48 units down in Florida last December. And then I kind of dabble into some other smaller investment. But I also not branch off, but I also partner up with one of my partners to do a midterm and short term rental
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Okay.
So I do that. I do that on a management as well as arbitrages. Um, but yeah, and so I do have my license, my broker. I mean my real estate license, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So today I actually switched over to, I finally just kind of got hung up with, I hung my license with a broker that is focusing more on commercial as well as residential, but mostly commercial. So I'm going to start focusing on that side as well too, for more acquisitions and yeah, investment for myself.
Awesome.
But I do have, yeah, but I do have, like I said, a couple apartments that I am in for LP as well as GP on some of the syndicated deal.
Okay, great, great. A lot more advanced crowd today than what I'm used to. So yeah, for me, probably everyone knows, but I started off. I'm from the Bay Area as well. Started off in single family homes, house hacked. Basically got 3 single family homes in the Bay Area for like $1 million each. Quickly realized that it's not scalable. I'm not cash flowing, so I can't leave my day job as a pharmacy director. That's what I currently do. So I started looking at a state, and just like most people, it's intimidating, right? To go out of state, like, I'm investing in Oklahoma, Alabama. I've never even been to those states. I only went there once I had a property under contract. That's the only time I've been there. But once I kind of started my direct mailing campaign, I scaled rapidly to, I have 90 units right now without any partners. I don't syndicate, I don't partner, it's just me. About 12 million, I think, is my portfolio about now. And I work a full time W 2 job still. So as a pharmacy director, so I scaled all that while working a full time W 2, and my three, my 2 mobile home parks, or sorry, my 2 apartments and my 1 mobile home park, I got all off market using my direct mailing campaign. So I sent out. So that kind of ties into today's topic of off my direct mailing campaign. So I sent out 1,800 letters over the span of 6 months. So that's roughly about 300 letters a month. Actually, I have one of my letters right here that I mailed out to people. So if you kind of notice the size, it's an invitation envelope. It's not your typical standard 8.5 by 11, and it just feels like it's an invitation from a friend. Um, Obviously it's handwritten on the front here. So this is an address. You see a live stamp. You flip it over on the back, and then you can see my address. Then basically, when you open the letter, I don't seal it. It's just tucked in, so it creates that mystique that, like, who opened my letter. And then once they open the letter, I have my handwritten or my letter in here, and then I basically have, it's a pretty generic letter that I have a template of, and I merge it with my prop stream data. But once you can see a letter, it's kind of hard to see, but I hand signed the name, and then I wrote a call to action on my letter to say, "Hey, owner, please call me, and this is my phone number." So it's pretty simple, to be honest, but a lot of people don't seem to do it right. I know a lot of people spend a lot of money, like $10,000 or $20,000 a month on marketing, and it's not effective. It looks more like spam mail, and it gets thrown away easily. But just the way I structure it makes it seem like it's coming from a friend. It's very personalized, and it just increases the open rate. And it kind of specifically targets the mom and pop owners. So I'm actually trying to hit um, older, people in their upper 60s, because typically they own the property for 20, 30 years. They probably self-manage it. There's a lot of equity built into it. They haven't raised their rents in probably 3 to 5 years. So what does that tell me as an investor is, number one, if I buy it right, I can raise the rents, which will increase the NOI, which increase the value. And you do a cash out refi, right? So it's just basically a big bird. You're doing a big bird on the property. But number two is, if there's high equity in the property, what does that mean? You can structure creative financing, right? And I think this is way more powerful. Direct mail and off-market lead generation is more powerful now, given the rising interest rates. Number two is, when I did my mailing campaign, it was during COVID when interest rates were like less than 3%. And that was a time when, no real estate brokers would talk to me because they didn't take me seriously because I was new. Most owners would say, hey, I got like 12 people that sent me a letter, just make me an offer and overpay for my property. But I think now that if you listen to the news and all over the media, it's just, whatever, recession's coming, housing market crash. You just hear all this like negativity, right? If you sit there and watch the news all day. But I think this creates a great opportunity and vacuum for creative financing because it's shifting towards a buyer's market. So it's finally shifting over to, in my favor, for example. But the sellers still want the seller market pricing. So that's where creative financing is really key, where I have a phrase, your price, my terms, right? I don't care if I have to overpay this property. Let's say it's worth $1 million. I don't mind paying you $2 million for the property, but I better get my terms. So how do I pick my terms, right? So if I'm overpaying by $1 million, I want 0% down. So basically no down payment and probably zero interest because I'm overpaying by $1 million. The $1 million interest is already baked in, and it's just going to be amortized over 30 years. So that's what I mean by your price, my terms, right? So I don't care what the price is. And obviously in the contract, I would build in a protection clause that, let's just say whatever, it's only a 10-year seller financed agreement. By year 10, let's say the value is not worth 2 million. I bought for 2 million, right? Let's just say the bank value is at 1.5. Then I put a clause in the contract saying that if the bank doesn't appraise or the property doesn't appraise in 10 years, then the terms get extended for another 5 years or something like that, 5 to 10 years. So that's how you protect yourself. So that's kind of what I kind of teach to people to do. So you want to protect yourself, right? Because obviously, overpaying can be reckless, but you have to build in clauses to protect yourself. So kind of side tangent there, but yeah, back to my mailing campaign. Basically sent out around 300 letters a month. So basically, I use PropStream for my data. I use Yell Letters Complete to outsource my letters. So they do everything for me. All I do is I send them my data in Excel format and my letter template to Yell Letters Complete, and then set a date to mail the letters. I typically recommend you send letters on a Monday because they'll receive the letters on Friday, and that's when people are winding down and they're more likely to open their letters. So if you kind of follow that strategy that I outlined, typical response rate's around 3%. So I send out 300 letters. So it's about 9 to 10 responses. And that's kind of I call it a less sexy market. So, I invest in Oklahoma. It's not as sexy there. But if you were to invest in like California, Texas, Florida, where it's a little bit, more competition, you might get a 1%, response rate there. So if you send out 300, it's about maybe 3 responses. And, and then about 10% of the letters, so about 30, have invalid addresses, kind of due to the data. PropStream doesn't have perfect data. None of the data sources are perfect. So this letter that I got, which is one of the letters that was returned back to me because the address was invalid or the owner was no longer there. So that's just kind of a typical expectation. And, I sent out these letters for about 6 months. I closed on a 26-unit apartment complex and my 20-unit apartment complex with the same letter batch. So for reference, I spent around $3,000 for that marketing campaign of 1,800 letters. And just day one of equity, I made $300,000 because I bought it. My 26 unit, I bought for $500,000 in Oklahoma City, and it appraised at $750,000 day one. So that's $250K of equity. And for my 20 unit, I bought for $350,000, and it appraised at $400,000 day one. So just day one, of just equity going off market, I basically made $300,000 of equity with a $3,000 marketing budget. So that's 100x return on my marketing budget, right? So that's very high, and I closed on 2 deals, right? So I average around 1 deal closed per 900 letters, which is um, pretty good there. And that's not including the value add potential, right? So my 26 unit, like I mentioned, I got for $500,000. I'm probably putting in around $200,000 to renovate it, and I think after I'm done, it's probably gonna be worth 1.5 million. And then I'm gonna do a cash out refi, and then probably pull out all my down payment, which I put in about like maybe 125 in, plus my down payment, plus my renovation cost of $200,000, and probably take out another like $340,000 on top of that, depending on my interest rate. So that was basically um, kind of a home run deal that I got. And then my 20 unit, same thing. I got it for 350. Have a hard money loan on it with a 9% interest rate, ironically. And interest rates are almost 9% now. So it's kind of funny how my hard money loan's 9% and normal interest rates are around 7 to 8. But I'm putting in around 100,000 to fix that up. And then once it's rented out and renovated, it's probably gonna be worth around 800,000. So once again, do cash out refi, then pull up, get back my down payment, pay off the hard money loan, and get back my renovation cost. And then basically, I own those kind of with no money out of pocket, take my money tax free, and go buy and scale more real estate in Oklahoma City. So that was kind of my kind of journey over the past year. And I'm a pretty big advocate for direct mailing, at least for apartment complexes. I can't speak towards, industrial, but I do know of a lot of people using kind of my same strategy for mobile home parks and self storage. But I think with mobile home parks and self storage, what I recommend is, in addition to sending letters out, you want to call them, because I think for mobile home parks and self storage, there's not as many deals out there. So you kind of have to spend a little more effort to do it. So with my mobile home park, I actually sent out a letter, and then I actually skip traced them, and I called the owner. So I was able to get my mobile home park for about $1.1 million. I down 10%, seller financed 1 million, 5% interest only over 5 years. And I deferred interest payments for a year. So that's what's really nice about creative financing, is that you can set your terms, right? And I put in, about almost $500,000 into the park. Gives me anxiety just saying that out loud. But if I hit my value add plan and basically fill up the park, to be worth around 10 million. But I don't have to get all the way there. Actually, just got an offer for about 2.1 million on the park, so it's about $1 million above, or about $500,000 of profit in about a year. So I'm tempted to take it and take that money and buy more apartments in Oklahoma City and just scale there. But yeah, that was kind of my kind of story with direct mailing campaign. In general, what I kind of teach all the students is, you basically have to do it for at least 12 months. I was fortunate to get good results in about 6 months. But I was doing it during a seller's market, right? But now that it's a buyer's market, I think I have like one student who he sent, I think his second batch of letters in San Antonio, and I think he got an 11 unit under contract in downtown San Antonio. The owner owned it for 100 years, so it's free and clear. The owner is motivated, has some health issues, so they want to unload it, and the kids are out of state and have no interest in doing the real estate. So, out the gate, you can get seller financing, seller carry first and first lien position, and it's 11 units for $750,000 in downtown San Antonio. So it's like literally prime, location, right? So, that was only his first letter batch. Like, I didn't get a deal like that until my third or fourth. So, I think it is more effective now. And, like I said, once again, what I like about direct mailing is, not to offend any brokers, but it's just hard to like build trust and rapport when you have someone in the middle. Like I worked with many brokers before, and I've said it multiple times, but I've never had a broker bring me a good deal. I've analyzed probably 2 deals sent to me as pocket listings from a broker, and they're all terrible deals, way overpriced, and the underwriting was completely false. They inflated the income, and the expenses were lowered way too low. Like they told me, like the expense ratio was like 35% Oklahoma City, and I know for a fact because I own 2 apartments there, expenses around 50 to 55%, right? So it's just kind of like I never had them bring me a good deal. And then also, like brokers don't take you seriously starting off, right? Because I have no track record, I have no experience yet. So why would they want to work with me, right? So instead of, I guess, complaining about it and saying why what was me, I just said I want to take destiny in my own hands, and that's why I started my direct mailing campaign. And um, actually, kind of found it very rewarding to kind of help, basically people with their situation. Like basically with direct mailing and going off market, it's you're not buying real estate, you're buying situations. So the better you understand the situation, the more likely you are to buy the real estate, right? So sending the letters is only 25% of the battle, but the other 75% is when they call you and then how you talk and interview with them, right? So that's how you build trust, because I'm basically some random Asian guy from California who's trying to buy your property in Oklahoma, right? So, like, what trust and credibility is there? So that's why, I kind of have like 10 questions that I go over, to kind of as icebreakers, to get to know them and to kind of uncover their pain points. And then based on their pain points, once I know that, I can cater an offer based on those pain points. So a lot of these people, they're like my 26 unit. He was a lawyer. He owned a law firm. He was self-managing his 26 unit. He had one unit as an office. He was doing his own maintenance. He was doing his own pest control. Lawyers are very busy people, right? So doing your normal day job plus, managing your real estate, it's very tiring, and he was burnt out, and he just wanted to basically get his money and then get his nest egg that he worked hard for and, look to retire. Right. So that's how I kind of worked with him. And then the 20 unit, he was out of state owner. There's a lot of deferred maintenance. He basically didn't want to fix anything. Like there's a burned out unit that it cost me around $40,000 to finish renovating it. Just finished renovation this week, actually. But yeah, he just wanted to sell it and then move the money onto his next business venture that he was doing. So he didn't have the mental capacity to deal with the property anymore. So he just wanted to get rid of the property. And it was funny. Initially, I had it under contract for about 450, and he lowered the price by $100,000 because no lender would lend on it because it was the cash flow wasn't great. Day one. So I just said, hey, I got this pre-approved for 350K. If you give me that price, then I'll buy it. And he agreed, and that's how I got it. So it's definitely nice because when you work over, let's say, imagine like I have a broker and then the end buyer has a broker. I tell a message to my broker, that broker talks to the other broker, and that broker talks to the owner. It's like playing telephone. The message gets misconstrued, and it's hard to build that trust. So I'd rather cut out the middlemen, just work directly with the owner, and understand their pain points. People ask me like, well, how do you do the contracts? It's so easy. I literally Googled it. Oklahoma City purchase and sale agreement, and it's a standardized form, and I just fill in the blanks. It's not too difficult. You can probably spend 2 hours to read it, and once you do one or two, it's not that hard, right? So that's how I did it myself. I did that for 3 deals already, without any experience. I'm not a realtor. I'm not anything licensed. I'm just a pharmacist. Um, so kind of how that ties into creative financing is the moment you tell a broker or if you come out the gate with an owner about creative financing, the first reflex is number one, you have no money. And number two is I'm gonna move on from you and use someone else. Like no real estate broker that I've worked with like understands creative financing. The moment you say creative financing, they just think that, oh, this is like too much trouble. I'm gonna move on to my other 100 investors. Right. So it's typically a turn off for brokers. So, but I still ask, right? I always ask, like when a broker sends me a deal, I just said, hey, is the property owned free and clear? And a lot of times the owner has to be like, or the broker goes, oh, let me ask. And the reason I ask is because I want to know if seller financing, seller carry first is even an option, right, out the gate. So I can have that as part of negotiations if the property is good. But with also the owner, a lot of times, if you don't explain seller financing in a way that's beneficial to them, the first reflex is to say no, right? That's a human defense mechanism, is I want to say no because I don't trust you, right? You're a complete stranger that sent me a letter. and you want me to seller finance you this deal, right? Like they want to become the bank. So that's why you have to build trust. So what I do and what I teach is, basically, they give me their price, they give me their T12, they give me their rent roll, and I already can analyze it, underwrite it to hit the to see if it hits a debt service cover ratio of 1.25. And most of the deals do not hit that. And I already know at the gate that, like, no bank's going to finance this deal, right? Because the bank wants a debt service cover ratio of 1.25. But I'm going to humor them, right? So I'm going to run this deal by my mortgage broker, all the lenders that I work with. If there's a loan on their property, I'll work with their lender that they're using. And then I already know if I get at the answer is going to be no, they're not going to lend on that price point, right? And why I do that is because I don't want to be the bad guy. I make the lender the bad guy, right? I'm on the owner's side. We're working together to solve this problem that the lender is giving us, right? Because the lender puts in the majority of the money. They put in about 75%. I put in 25%, right? So after I ran through so many lenders, at that point, the owner kind of feels hopeless, right? And then that's when you pitch your solution of creative financing. Like, hey, like I can give you your price, but would you be interested in giving me terms? And at that point, they kind of are confused usually. And then usually at that point, you can say, let's say the property's owned free and clear. Then I typically will say something like, oh, like all the rich people that I worked with, when they own real estate for a long time, they upgrade from being the landlord to the bank. The bank doesn't deal with operations. The bank doesn't deal with tenants, toilets. All the bank does is care that you pay them every month, right? So you worked hard, you upgrade to becoming the bank. You moved up the totem pole, right? And then also that you talk about the tax implications too, right? So long-term capital gains tax is 0 to 20%. I think the first $50,000 is 0%, and then I think 50,000 to 450 is 15% tax bracket. Anything above 450 is a 20% tax bracket. So you can literally calculate their tax bill for them and just say like, hey, like this is, if you sell this to me, you don't seller financing it, this is how much tax you're going to pay to Uncle Sam, right? And they're usually going to be shocked because they don't realize how much it is, right? Like if you sold $1 million property, it might be a couple $100,000 that you're paying in capital gains tax. But if you seller finance it, you only pay capital gains tax on your down payment and your interest payments, right? So that's how you kind of pitch the deals to them. So there's kind of 3 strategies of creative financing that I talk about. You can check out my other video. I went into way more depth if you go to my YouTube channel. But the first one is seller carry first. So this only works if the property is owned free and clear. So basically the owner is in first lien position. So they're like the bank, right? And then there's seller carry second, which means that you have a bank in the first lien position. And then let's just say you need 25% down. The bank will pay 75%. And then out of the 25% that I'm responsible for, the seller can carry maybe, let's say 10% in second position. So that means that they carry 10%, the bank gives me 75%, I down 15%. So it just lowers my down payment, right? And what it means is, so second lien position means that, let's just say I filed for bankruptcy, the lender in first lien position will get all their money first, and whatever money's left over, the second lien position will get. So sometimes the second lien position may not get their initial investment back. So it's a riskier position, and that's why they may not like it, or you may have to pay a higher interest rate for someone to be in second lien position, right? But one caveat that I kind of tell people or students is that you basically have to ask the lender if it's okay for the seller to be in second lien position, even though it doesn't affect them at all. They want to know that they still want to be involved, because let's just say you don't tell the lender that, hey, I'm going to have the seller carry me 10% in second lien position, and they find out later, they can issue the due on sale clause on you, right? So you don't want that. So you want to be fully transparent and disclose it to say, hey, the seller wants to carry 10% second lien position. I'm paying them 6% in interest only. And despite that, between paying you and the seller, my debt service cover ratio is still good at 1.25%. Is it okay if they do that? So you just need to ask for permission. So all it does is it helps lower your down payment. And the last one is subject to, or the master lease agreement. And you do this strategy when there's a loan on the property. And, typically, so how it kind of works is like, let's just say the owner is Bob, and Bob has a loan with Wells Fargo. So if I have it subject to, I still pay. Let's say I pay Bob $5,000 a month, and then Bob will then pay $4,000 a month to Wells Fargo. So he's still his name's still on the loan. My name's just on the warranty deed. And the goal is I want to add value to the property, do a cash out refi, and then I can get my own permanent loan on it. So it's just another strategy that people use. So it's called subject to for single family homes, or master lease agreement for commercial real estate um, there. So I know I went over quite a bit there. So I guess I just can open it up to any questions to anybody about anything I just went over.
So you mentioned, do you ask for seller financing in contract? Do you kind of get in there a little bit? Because I noticed off-market stuff, especially without a broker, the hardest part is getting into contract. Especially, I guess I do industrial. Industrial, you get some pretty high cap rates. And then sometimes the seller's like, wait a minute, this is too easy. I must be giving too good of a price. And then they regret. So do you ask for, so then if you ask for seller finance in the beginning without getting the contract, they might be just like, well, screw it, this guy doesn't have money, so I won't even get in contract with this guy.
Yeah. So I never approached the owner or seller financing out the gate. I always come from a place of traditional financing because, like you said, once you pitch seller financing, they just think, oh, you don't have money, you don't have credibility. I'm going to say no, right? It's a defense mechanism. So I said I will have that deal rejected by like multiple lenders at their price, and then at that point, after it's been rejected a couple times, because I'm keeping them in the loop the whole time. Like, hey, I reached out to Wells Fargo, they rejected it. This is why. I reached out to Bank of the West. This is why they rejected it. So I'm very transparent. Like, I'll even send them the email that why they rejected it, right? So basically, it's just kind of in a weird psychological way. I'm kind of beating them down a little bit, and at the end, I just want to come up with a solution. My usual solution is going to be seller financing, and it kind of feels like I'm coming at a place of help. So an example I like to give as it relates to work is like I find it kind of funny at work. Like if I give my boss a suggestion, he thinks that I'm telling him what to do, right? It comes with a negative connotation. But if there's an issue that happens and I fix it, then I come at it a better. I'm seeing in a more positive light. So it's just purely perception and how you're perceived. So that's what I've done for my mobile home parks. And I typically explain it in a way that benefits them. Like I want to make it a win-win, right? That's just kind of my healthcare background a little bit. I'm used to patient care and basically doing the best interest of the patient. So I kind of take that approach where like, oh, this is why it's like beneficial for you, and then like worst case, like for example, let's just say I seller finance my mobile home park, right? Or my mobile park or seller finance. I put in $500,000 into that property. If I go bankrupt, he takes over the mobile park again, and I lose my $500,000, and he got that renovation for free plus my down payment, right? So like, there's so much security for them, and they already know how to manage the asset because they owned it already. So I usually don't pitch it out the gate. I'm trying to build trust and rapport of the owner because I know what you mean. Like when you're doing so many deals, like you just want to be efficient, right? I'm the same way. Like, hey, just cut to the chase. Let's do this. But no, you have to like warm them up to it because it's all about building trust. Like, does that owner trust you to be a good, person to seller finance to, right? So it's all about building that relationship and building that trust. And once you can do that by helping them and teaching them and like problem solving with them, at that point, that's when they will easily be like, yeah, I'll do seller financing, and thanks for helping me, right? So that's kind of been my experience with it. But it depends what they want to do with the money, right? Like if they want to put the money somewhere else to another business or buy more real estate, you can't do seller financing at that point, right? But it's usually like the 4 Ds, right? Like death, divorce, disability, disagreement, right? That's when people are more motivated to sell. So it is a specific situation, and it doesn't work for everybody. So hopefully does that answer your question there, Arthur?
Yeah, that answers it pretty good. So you kind of just extend the due diligence. Like you get in contract, you get a bunch of lenders. So you have to do a good amount of work. And then if it doesn't go through, so do you ask them, do you own it free and clear?
Yes. Yeah. So I have 10 questions that I go through my owner out the gate. And kind of at a high level, my first question is an icebreaker. Like, oh, tell me about the property, right? Because people love talking about real estate, myself included. And usually I'm like, oh, is it you or other partners that own it? I want to uncover those silent partners, right? Because I had one student, oh my God, she spent like so long doing all this work for the owner. They're under agreement. At the last second, there's a silent partner that just came out of nowhere and they blew up the deal. And she just wasted all that time, right? So I want to uncover all the silent partners out the gate. So is it owned by multiple people? Is it owned by a trust? Who is it owned by? And then typically I ask, oh, do you own the property free and clear, or is there debt on the property? And then it's just a quick question that I ask. So I usually get all that stuff out first, and I'm jotting down these pain points, right? Like I'm just gathering all my ammunition so I know how to negotiate appropriately, right? Because I tell people like I'll just give back to the example. Let's just say they want 2 million, it's worth 1.5 million, and then let's say all my lenders reject it. I just said, hey, I'll give you 2 million, but you need to become the bank for me. And then usually at that point they're kind of confused, and that's when I kind of pitch my example. And I usually use I'm blanking on my example. I usually have this example that I give, but I'm kind of blanking on it today. Yeah, I'm blanking out on the example. But yeah, it's just the way you explain it, and then usually, farm like the way I phrase it is like if you can't explain it to like a fifth grader, you haven't mastered the topic yet. I'm a pharmacist. I'm explaining drugs to people all day, so I think explaining seller financing is easier than explaining your diabetes medications, right? Or your heart failure medications. So it's just really about explaining it and just coming from a place of education. And that's how I built trust. And, like I said, you don't want to come off, there's a good book out there called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And there's a strategy that he does that I implement it's called a calibrated no. So you intentionally want people to say no so that they lower their guard already. So, like an example would be like, would it be crazy if I gave you your price, but you gave me my terms? And then sometimes it might be like, no, it's not crazy, right? Or like, would it be crazy if I offered you exactly your price under one condition? And then they'll say no. And then they said no already. So they let down their guard. And that's when you pitch creative financing, right? So it's a soft skill, unfortunately. And it's just something you have to practice. I'm fortunate. I'm a pharmacy director, so I manage 40 pharmacists. So most of my job is just soft skills. That's all I do all day. So I'm very good at, negotiations and getting what I want while making it seem like it's a win-win situation for them. So that's probably my skill, my best skill that I have there. So it just takes practice and repetition. I got a lot of no's too, but it just never hurts to ask. And that's what I kind of preach. Um, yeah. Any other questions?
Hey, so I just kind of want to follow up with like Arthur's question. So a lot of times people don't really give you like financials information or anything like that if you don't, have an LOI out there, an accepted LOI, right? So then, and if you go into the different lenders, they're going to ask for financials information.
Yep.
So then at what point do you make them feel comfortable to give you financials information so then before you got into contract with them, or like what Arthur said, you get into contract with them first and then go, or do you somehow get them to give you the financials information before you get into a contract?
Yeah, so I never make a contract until I have all financial information. So what's nice about going off market is you're not competing against other investors, right? It's just you and this owner, right? You just have to stay on top of mind. So you just have to follow up consistently, right? So I always ask, hey, to get the ball rolling on an offer, my lender will need a T12, which is a profit and loss statement, and the recent rent roll. Is that something that you can give me? Right? And I just sent to my lender. So I don't ask for it personally. My lender, and they know, right? They know the lender's gonna ask for it to analyze the deal. So, I typically ask for that, but if they don't even give me that, then I have a 3 offer method that I teach my students in the course is, so the first one is net operating income divided by the market cap rate. So if they don't give you financial information, take your best guesstimate, right? Let's just say it's a 26 unit or 20 unit, $500 in rent is the average, times that by 12, right? So that's your annual. So it's 10,000 times 12, so 120,000. Assume your expenses is 50%, so it's 60,000. So your NOI is $60,000, and the cap rate in Oklahoma City is about 7.8 cap. So you divide it by 7.5 cap, and that's your first offer, right? That's method number one. Method number two is price per unit, right? So I teach PropStream, or most of the students use PropStream in the course, and you can actually find sales comps on. So you can actually Google or put in the address in PropStream, and there's a section where it has sales comps, and then you just can pull up, whatever similar apartment complexes within a whatever 2 mile radius within the past year. And you can see the price per unit. So let's just say it's like $30,000 per unit on average between 3 properties that recently sold. And at that point, you times it by the numbers of units, and that's how you come up with your offer. And then the last offer, which is the one that I typically use, is the tax assessed price, and that's public information, right? So I take all three of my offers, and I take the lowest offer of the three. And usually the lowest offer is a tax assessed price, and that's what I offer first. Okay, and a lot of times I know, because I offer a tax assessed price, because I know it's gonna offend them, because it's gonna be way too low than what they expected, right? And I just said, well, you know, uh, based on the information I have, all I can do is offer the tax assessed price, which is very conservative. Or I don't say that to them, but I offer a tax assessed price because it's public information. But if you give me a T12 and a rent roll, then I'd be happy to make a stronger offer if you're interested, right? So that's how I do it with them. And well, ironically, with my two deals, I offered tax assessed price on both of them, and they both accept the tax assessed price. So I knew that I was gonna get equity day one, right? Because they took my offer. So that's what I explained to them, like I just take the hand that I'm dealt, and that's how I pivot, right? And then usually at that point, um, you know, they'll give me the financials. But from my experience, like if the owner is motivated, like they'll work with you. Like the three owners I closed on, they're very willing to give me their financials, answer any questions I had, gave me any resources, leases, whatever I needed. They gave it to me very timely. So that's usually how the owners are. If they're like being difficult, I'm willing to help them too. Like I have templates for rent rolls and P&Ls. Like I'll help them do it, right? To build that trust and rapport. But hopefully, if I'm doing all that work, it builds that trust, and ultimately, I can close on the property and make it a win-win situation. But there are some situations where, like one of my students, he got burned by doing all this work, and they end up ghosting him, and then a broker sent him the deal like a month later with his documents that he created, right? So it's just kind of the nature of the business there. But hope that answers your question there.
Yeah, it does. Just so then let's just say if you have a property and you have an interested, you know, seller,
Mhm.
then do you at that point like do a site visit and kind of see the condition, or do you just kind of negotiate something without even being able to kind of see it? Because you're far away.
Yeah. So I'm in California. I have properties in Oklahoma, Alabama. I actually will not visit the property until I'm doing the inspection. So I'll submit the offer, and then during the due diligence period, so typically it's 30 days to do your due diligence, right? So usually I'll coordinate a inspection. So it took about three inspectors, 8 hours to inspect all 26 units, and cost me $7,000 to do that. So I actually flew out for that one. I was there, but honestly, like I was only there just to meet the property manager and to kind of see the area. I'm not the expert in terms of like all that, water here need to be replaced, all that stuff. I'm just more of like, hey, like how much money do I need to spend? I have my general contractor there, my property manager there, inspectors there, and like, how much is it going to cost for me to renovate this unit, and how much rent can I get? So I went there for my first one. My second 20 unit, I bought that sight unseen. I didn't even go there for that one because I knew the area already. So no, I never will fly out unless I have it under contract. And typically, if I am doing an inspection, I'm usually pretty confident that I'm gonna close on the deal because I bought the property so right. Like I got this property because I offer a tax assessed price. I got it for $250,000 under market value, right? So I have $250,000 of cushion to make a mistake. I don't want to, but I do have that cushion built in there already. And then at that point, up to you if you want to go fly there and do due diligence. I did for the first one. I typically recommend it as a beginner, but once you know the area, and then you can go down depending on your time. I work a full time W-2, so it's hard for me to leave for a couple days. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience there. Does that answer your question there, hon?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. Any other questions from anyone else?
So for PopStream, and what is the other thing? The letter thing?
Yeah, Yell Letters Complete.
Yell Letter Complete? I mean, is it like a subscription that you sign up for? Or different packages?
No, so I have, I'm not sure if you're on my YouTube channel, but I have a referral link for a 7-day trial, but it's $100 a month for PropStream. And Yell Letters Complete, it's not a subscription. It's you just pay based on how many letters you use. A lot of people reached out to me to see if I can do their direct mailing campaign for them. Like, I'll take care of the data from PropStream and coordinating all the letters and structuring the letters the right way, and then basically pivoting the letters based on the response rate. So a lot of people have asked me if I offer that service. I'm thinking about it. If there's enough interest, I may consider just doing people's direct mailing campaign for them, so that all people have to do is just pick up their phone when the hot leads come, because typically they'll either text you, call you, or email you. So I'm trying to flush it out still, or debate if I want to take on that duty. But there was a lot of interest for people. I've had a lot of people reach out to me to see if I just can do their direct mailing campaign for them to kind of emulate my similar results that I've gotten. And it just makes it a little bit more easier that you just focus on building trust with the owners and not worrying about the letters. And number two, it kind of holds you accountable too, because if I'm literally doing the letters for you every month, then it's going to be sent every month, right? A lot of students of mine, they start their mailing campaign for a month or two, and then they just fall off because they got busy or they got discouraged, or but you have to do it for at least 6 to 12 months to be successful and hit each owner 7 times, right? You have to hit each owner 7 times to have an effect, because your letter has to be there at the right place, right time, right? Maybe my letter hit this owner a year ago. He was okay, not motivated, but then a year later he's going through a divorce and my letter hits. And maybe now he's more motivated to sell, right? And then right now people are fearful that of the housing market crash, apartments are going to go down. So it's like catching a falling knife. So maybe they're more motivated now to sell it because there's more fear, right? Versus before, when it was a seller's market and it was low inventory, they're like, oh, well, I'll just keep on this property forever and it's always going to go up. So, but yeah, it's not too difficult to do it. But you have to structure it the right way, and weave through your data correctly too, and pick the right filters, remove duplicates, and structure it in the right way to be the most successful. So, I've been doing mines for a while. That's how I get 3% response rate. But I think other people, if you don't I'm sure we all got the mail, right? It's like that weird postcard, and it has everyone's usually the broker's face on it. It looks so professional. The moment I get that, it immediately goes in the trash. I don't even look at it, right? But the way I structure my letters is the way that it feels as if it's like a friend that sent you a letter, and they're more likely to open it, and they're more likely to reach out to you. A lot of the owners that I heard from my letters and then from my students' letters is that they said oh wow, it felt so personalized, and they're actually willing to help us find other deals if they don't want to sell their deal, because usually apartment owners know other apartment owners. So it's just a more personalized approach in touch. But those are the two that I use, and I've had the most success with. Yeah. Does that answer your question there?
Yep.
Yeah. Any other questions? Got about 8 minutes left here.
So you don't put your photo in there in that picture on that letter, right?
No, I do not. So unfortunately, Oklahoma, Alabama, there's not many Asians there. So unfortunately, I do not put my photo there, because I think it might work against me in that situation. it's just purely the template. I mean, you have access to my letter template, Charmaine, in the course. I
Right.
forget what module. It's literally that exact letter template, but all you have to change is make a personalized paragraph about yourself. So like you want to come off very casual, average Joe, right? It's like for me, I'd be like, hey, I'm Steven. I'm a pharmacist. I've been working for 10 years. I own whatever 6 properties, or I don't say 90 units because that makes me seem like I'm really rich. So they want to oversell me. I own whatever 8 properties. I own a couple in Oklahoma City, and I'm looking to buy a couple more to, basically provide for my family. Right? If you have kids, if you're married, list your husband, your wife, your kids. If you have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, list all that stuff, right? Because you just want to come off as a hardworking, average American trying to provide for their family. It's very relatable. And honestly, I just use a Gmail. Like it's literally my Gmail. It's just like my name, first name, last name at gmail.com. Like I know some people have these fancy, oh, it's whatever, like investingcapital.llc.com. That's too fancy, right? Like people come off fancier. I got 90 units. I'm humble enough to use a Gmail. So I think most people can take the same approach, right? Just use a regular Gmail and phone number. It's just my phone number, my 408 number from the Bay Area. Don't use a 1-800 number or like some generic number because you want to build that trust. Like you don't want to come off as a big LLC syndication corporation. You want to come off as an average person. That's my strategy for everything in terms of letters and negotiations. Um, and for some perspective, I own 90 units and I'm still working full time, right? So it just kind of, you just got to be, just humble yourself and come like you're very average and nothing special. So that's kind of been my approach for everything there. Great question. Any other questions?
So for like when you approach a seller, do you ask them to give you a price, or do you give an offer, or do you listen if they have a price? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and then you make an offer if they don't have a price in mind. Because they always do in their head. It's just whether they're telling you or not.
Yeah. Great question there. So as part of my 10 questions, um, one last question is like, what does a good price look like to you? That's exactly how I ask it. What does a good price look like to you? And sometimes they'll tell me, right? Like one guy told me I want the tax assessed price. I was like, all right, let me look that up real quick. Oh, it's $415,000. Yeah, that works for me, right? Or most 90% of the time, or 99, 95, they'll be like, oh, you make me an offer, right? And at that point, obviously I'll ask for the financials if they give that to me, and then I just do my 3 offer method that I went over earlier, right? So basically, NOI divided by market cap rate, price per unit, and then the tax assessed price. Usually, the tax assessed price is going to be the one that works because it's the lowest offer, and that's how. So basically, whatever hand I'm dealt, if they tell me the price, I make it. I'll figure out what my offer is going to be. I pivot either way, right? So every situation that I go through, I can kind of pivot to answer that. So I've been through every situation possible. Like people gave me prices that were way above. I ran through a lender. I said, "Hey, it doesn't work for me, but if you sell our financing, I'm willing to give you that price." They told me no. It's just repetitions in doing it. Um, I think in industrial, I haven't. I think I do know a couple investors that were pretty. I think with industrial, it's probably a combination, just like mobile home parks and self storage. I think there's not as many deals out there with industrial, so probably a combination of letters and cold text/cold call. It's probably effective with such a small niche. Um, but yeah, I just kind of take. It's kind of an art, right, Arthur? It's kind of like an art. Once you kind of get to creative financing and kind of higher levels of real estate, it's more of a art than a science. I know where you're coming from. If you're like a software engineer, probably like it's more logical based, and I'm the same way as a pharmacist. But once you kind of get to that creative financing, off market lead generation, and negotiations, it's more of a art than a science, and you kind of have to read the situation and pivot accordingly to do that. Um, yeah, I hope I answers your question there.
Yeah, that was a perfect answer. A lot of times I I realized when they give you a price, and usually it's a pretty high price,
Yeah, always.
it's hard to negotiate that down. It's like, if they're stuck on that price, it's just, all right, well, he has an unrealistic price. I
Yeah.
just move on usually.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Was like, at this point, they gave their price, and then lenders rejected it, and the seller financing is rejected. Then at that point, it's not a motivated seller. Just move on, right? Don't waste your time. Like, you'll quickly know if they're motivated or not. Like, I'll know if in maybe like after the first hour and after I do all my legwork and pitch it, if despite that, then I just move on, right? There will be a motivated seller out there. You just gotta be persistent with your letters and your off market lead generation. And then you might just follow up in like maybe, whatever, a couple months, like just put it into a Google Doc or your CRM, and then, or Google calendars, and then just follow up, say, hey, like just wondering, like if you're interested in still selling, has anything changed? So I do that too. Because I say, if you have a motivated seller, you have a motivated buyer, you'll make a deal happen, right? If they're not motivated, but you are, the deal's not going to happen. So I call those people fishers. They're just fishing for a great price, but they're not motivated at all. They have no pain points,
100%.
no distress.
You're wasting your time.
Yeah, at that point, you're wasting your time. So just put them in your back pocket and text them or call them maybe a couple months later. So yeah, that's you just have to know when to give up or when to move on from that lead. So cool. About 1 minute left. So thanks for hopping on. If you have more questions, just shoot me an email, or if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you just can put a comment. I usually check those, but I'm pretty responsive. If you have any questions, if you want my links to PropStream, Yeller is Complete, or even want me to set up your mailing campaign for you, and you just focus on picking up the calls or anything, just reach out to me, and hope to, or any of you guys have a deal that you want to send me to analyze, I'd be happy to analyze that on my next session. There, or if you're interested in being interviewed, I know there's a little more sophisticated investors here. If you're interested in being interviewed by me, you can reach out to me as well. We'd be happy to record interview and upload it to my YouTube as well. But if not, thanks for hopping on, and hope you found value from today's session. Thank you, everybody.